The sword of the fallen clan. The desert wind howled like a dying beast. Sand flew through the air, sharp like blades. Jace pulled his scarf tighter around his face. He had been walking for hours, searching for shelter, water, anything. But instead, he found something else. A scream. It came from the canyon ahead, high-pitched, female. Then, sounds of struggle, metal clashing, laser fire. Jace's boots pounded the rocks as he ran toward the sound. When he reached the edge, he saw them. 3 raiders surrounding a lone figure. She was alien, that much was clear. Pale skin with a shimmer like moonlight. Long dark hair tied behind her head. Her silver armor was damaged and her leg was bleeding badly. She was cornered, breathing hard, holding a large, glowing sword. "Drop the sword, girl," one raider growled, aiming his blaster. She didn't drop it. Instead, she lifted it with both trembling hands. But her strength was failing. Jace didn't think. He moved. He slid down the rocky slope, grabbing a broken metal pole on the way. With a loud shout, he charged into the fight. One of the raiders turned, too late. Jace slammed the pole into his head. The second fired his blaster but missed. Jace grabbed a rock and threw it at his face. The girl collapsed. The sword slipped from her hands and hit the ground near Jace. It hummed with energy. Without hesitation, Jace picked it up. It felt heavy, alive. The blade glowed brighter in his grip. He turned just as the last raider aimed his weapon. Jace swung the sword. It cut through the man's armor like it was paper. Silence fell. Only the wind remained. Jace looked at the sword. It was unlike anything he'd ever seen. Ancient. Beautiful. Dangerous. Then he looked at the girl. She was staring at him. Not in fear, but in shock. "You?" she whispered. Her eyes were wide. "You touched it." She tried to stand but fell to her knees. "You don't understand what you've done." Jace knelt beside her. "Hey, it's okay. You're safe now. I'm not going to hurt you." She grabbed his sleeve. Her fingers were cold. "By picking up the sword of Varine, you have claimed me." "What?" Jace blinked. "What are you talking about?" Her eyes fluttered shut. "The bond is made." Then she collapsed, unconscious. Jace froze. What bond? He carried her back to his small camp. The fire was weak, but it was enough to warm her. He wrapped her wound and placed the sword beside her. It still glowed faintly. Jace sat across from her, watching the fire, confused and tired. Who was she? What was that sword? And what did she mean by claimed? He didn't sleep that night. The next morning she woke up slowly. Her eyes opened, confused at first, then alert. She sat up quickly. "The sword," she said. "It's there," Jace said, pointing. "Safe. I didn't take it." She looked at him with strange eyes, deep, golden, and full of meaning. "You don't know what you've done," she said again. "Then maybe you should explain it," Jace said. "Because all I did was try to help." The girl touched the sword gently. "That blade belonged to my family. I am Lissa, last daughter of the Varine clan. The sword is not just a weapon, it is a symbol." "Of what?" "Of marriage." Jace almost laughed. "Come again?" "In my culture, the sword is sacred. If a male lifts it in battle to protect a female of the Varine, it is seen as a vow, a binding, a claim." Jace stared at her. "Wait, are you saying—" "Yes," she said quietly. "You have become my bonded mate, my husband, by law of my people." He stood up. Whoa. I didn't agree to that." Lysa's face was calm, but serious. "You did not need to agree. The act is the vow. The sword chose you. And now, others will come for us." Jace took a deep breath. He had come to the desert looking for a mission, some credits, maybe adventure. Instead, he found a sacred sword, an alien princess, and an accidental marriage. Just my luck, he muttered. But deep down he knew this was just the beginning. The real danger hadn't even started yet. The clan's last princess. The fire had burned low. Jace sat in silence watching Lisa as she stared at the sword. The morning light touched her pale face, making her skin glow softly. She looked calm, but her eyes were full of storm. Finally she spoke. My people once ruled 5 moons, she said. The Vareen were strong, proud, but pride is poison. Jace didn't say anything, he just listened. Lisa reached for the sword and placed it across her knees. One night our enemies came. They called it cleansing. We called it murder. Her hands shook as she held the blade. My family fought to protect the people. All died. Only I escaped. Jace frowned. So, you're a princess? She looked at him. Not anymore. A princess without a people is just a ghost in fancy clothes. There was a long silence. Then Jace said, Why were those raiders after you yesterday? They are not raiders, they are bounty hunters, Lisa said. The last Vareen carries a price, dead or alive. And me? Jace asked. You? She smiled bitterly. You touched the sword of Vareen. You protected me. That makes you part of our ancient laws. They believe. You are my husband. Jace rubbed his forehead. Okay, let's say I accept this crazy sword law. What happens now? Lissa stood weak but determined. Now, we run. They packed quickly. Jace gave her his only spare cloak. Lissa walked slowly, but her pride kept her upright. As they moved across the sands, Jace asked, Isn't there a way to break the bond? Yes, Lisa said. How? She looked away. You die, or I die. Jace gave her a sideways glance. Got it. So, we stay married. By midday, they reached an old ruin, an outpost buried in half sand. They went inside to rest. While Lysa drank water, Jace explored. On the wall, he saw ancient alien markings. He pointed. What does that say? Lysa read the words slowly. A bond made by the blade is written in fire and blood. It cannot be undone, only fulfilled. Jace looked at her. What does that mean? She hesitated. It means our lives are tied now. If you stay, you are bound to my fate. If you leave, they will hunt you too. Jace laughed bitterly. I was just trying to help a stranger. Now I'm married and on a kill list. You can still walk away, Lissa said quietly. Jace looked at her. Would you? She didn't answer. That night, a shadow moved outside the ruin. Lissa woke first. She touched Jace's arm. We're not alone. He sat up instantly. He heard it. 2, movement in the sand, not 1, many. They found us, she whispered. Jace grabbed the sword. Lissa shook her head. They don't want to kill you, not yet. They want to test you. Test me. She nodded. To prove if you are worthy of the blade, and of me. Before Jace could reply, the wall exploded. 4 alien figures stepped inside, tall, armored, eyes glowing under their helmets. One spoke in a deep voice. The male has touched the sacred blade. He must face the trial of flame. Jace stepped forward, gripping the sword. Fine. What's the trial? The alien threw a small orb on the ground. It flashed, and suddenly they were no longer in the ruin. They stood in a circular arena. The sky was red. The ground was lava rock. The air was heavy and hot. Jace looked around. Where are we? Lisa stood beside him. A memory realm. A trial space. You must survive. If you fail, we both die. Before he could ask more, a huge beast appeared. 6 arms, claws like swords, eyes burning like fire. The trial had begun. Jace took a breath and held the sword tight. His heart was pounding, his legs shaking. He wasn't a hero. He wasn't a warrior. But then, he looked at Lissa. She had believed in him even though he was just a human. He couldn't let her down. With a shout, Jace ran toward the beast. The fight was brutal. The beast struck fast. Jace dodged, rolled, slashed. The sword was heavy, but it moved like it knew where to go. It protected him, guided him. His body ached, his arms bled, but he kept going. And then, one clean strike, the sword cut through the beast's chest. It howled and vanished in smoke. The arena faded. They were back in the ruin. The 4 aliens knelt before Jace. The sword accepts you. The bond stands. Jace dropped to one knee, exhausted. Lissa knelt beside him. Her hand touched his cheek. You fought not just for me, she whispered, but for something more. Jace smiled weakly. I guess I really am your husband now, huh? She said nothing, but the look in her eyes said everything. Hunted by her own kind. The night was quiet again. Jace sat near the fire, wrapping cloth around his bleeding hand. The fight and the trial had taken everything out of him. Across from him, Lissa sat silently, watching the flames. Her face was unreadable. Jace finally broke the silence. So what now? Lissa didn't answer at first. Then softly she said, Now we run faster. That trial proved your worth to some, but not to all. Jace frowned. You mean more people are coming? She looked him in the eyes. Yes, and they are worse. By dawn, they were moving again. This time through a dark forest full of thick blue leaves and glowing vines. Strange sounds echoed all around them. Jace had never seen such a place. How long until they find us, he asked. They already have, Lissa replied calmly. I can feel their minds. The Vereen are near. Suddenly, a voice echoed in their heads. Lissa of the Fallen Clan. We come not to kill, but to return you home. Jace looked around, startled. Was that in my head? Lissa nodded. Telepathic warriors, elite. They do not believe in our bond. They want to take me away, and if I resist, they will erase your memory. Jace gritted his teeth. They're going to try. Moments later, 4 shadowy figures stepped out from behind the glowing trees. Their armor was black and sleek. Their faces were covered with silver masks. One of them held a glowing staff that crackled with energy. You do not belong, human, one of them said aloud. She is Vereen. You are dirt. Jace stepped forward, gripping the sword. You want to take her? You'll have to go through me. The leader of the group tilted his head. Foolish, brave, but foolish. Then the attack began. The first warrior moved faster than lightning. Jace barely blocked the strike. The sword sang in his hands as it clashed with the enemy's staff. Sparks flew. Lissa tried to help, but another warrior blocked her path. You have forgotten your place, princess, he said coldly. I make my own place now, she replied, drawing a hidden blade. Meanwhile, Jace was forced backward, strike after strike pushing him toward a ledge. His muscles burned. He couldn't win like this. Then, an idea. He let the next strike hit the sword just right. Twisting his body, he redirected the force and knocked the enemy off balance. With one hard kick, he sent him flying into a tree. Lissa screamed. One of the warriors had cut her arm. Jace turned, rage in his eyes. He charged, swinging the sword in a wide arc. The glowing blade slammed into the attacker's armor, cracking it open. The enemy fell unconscious. Breathing hard, Jace stood over Lissa, protecting her. The last 2 warriors stepped back. You are stronger than expected, one said. But the bond is still false. The other added, You must prove it again in the Temple of Names. Jace lowered his sword. I've already proved myself. Twice. No, they replied in unison. You have only passed tests of skill. The temple tests the soul. Lissa whispered, No, not the Temple of Names. Jace looked at her. What is it? She looked pale. It's where they show your true heart, your fears, your past, and your future. If you are unworthy, the temple crushes your mind. Jace met her eyes. Then let's go. She stared at him in shock. You would risk that? For me? He gave her a small smile. You think I fought a monster, escaped bounty hunters, and took a sword wedding just to quit now? Her cheeks turned a little pink. Foolish human, she whispered, but her voice was soft, and her eyes sparkled. Hours later, they stood before the entrance of the ancient temple. Vines covered the stone. Glowing words shimmered above the door in an alien language. Jace felt a chill. The Vereen warriors waited outside. You may enter together, one said, but only he will face the trial inside. Jace looked at Lysa. She nodded, gripping his hand for a moment, then let go. He stepped inside. The door closed behind him. Darkness. Then a soft voice. Who are you, Jace? What do you fear? What do you desire? He saw images flash in the air. His childhood, his sister crying, a battle lost, his own death. He tried to fight it, but the sword in his hand glowed, steady and calm. The temple spoke again. Do you choose this bond? Not by accident, but by heart? Jace didn't hesitate. Yes, he said. I choose her. Light exploded around him. Outside, the warriors gasped. The temple door opened. Jace stepped out, glowing with strange golden energy. The sword in his hand burned brighter than ever. Lysa ran to him. You passed? He smiled. I think the temple likes me. The lead warrior dropped to one knee. You are now one of the Vereen. Jace looked at Lysa. I'm yours, he said. She looked up at him, voice trembling. And I am yours. The Pact of Fire and Stone. The wind in the highlands was sharp and cold. The mountains ahead were black and cracked, as if fire had once lived inside them. Jagged rocks pointed to the sky like ancient fingers. At the center stood a large round stone gate, half buried in ash. Jace stared at it. This is the place? Lysa nodded slowly. The Temple of Fire and Stone. It is older than my people. Older than the sword itself. Jace looked around. It doesn't look very welcoming. She smiled softly. It's not. What waits inside is choice. They stepped closer. As they reached the gate, the air shimmered. A deep voice echoed from the stone. 2 souls. 1 bond. Will you burn it or bind it forever? The gate split open, revealing a glowing path into the mountain. Jace hesitated. You're sure about this? Lysa touched the sword in his hand. This temple gives you 1 chance. If you want freedom from our bond, you can break it here. But it will cost us everything. He met her eyes. And if we keep it, she looked down. Then it will be unbreakable, even by death. Jace took a breath. Then let's see where this path leads. Inside, the temple was alive. Lava flowed under glass floors. Fire danced in stone lanterns without fuel. Strange red symbols glowed on the walls. They walked slowly, side by side, into the heart of the mountain. Soon they reached a round chamber. In the center was a pool of clear liquid. It shimmered like silver fire. A stone tablet floated above it with alien words carved deep. Lysa translated quietly. Place your hands in the fire of choice. If both hearts match, the bond becomes eternal. If not, one burns. Jace looked at her. So, if one of us wants out? She nodded. The temple will destroy the uncertain one. Silence. Jace looked into the glowing pool. You sure you're not having second thoughts? He asked. She chuckled softly. You faced monsters for me, Jace. You walked into death twice, I have no doubts. He smiled. Then let's do this. They stood on opposite sides of the pool. At the same time, they placed their hands in the shimmering light. It wasn't hot. It was warm. Like the first fire in winter, like safe memories. Then the room went dark. Visions began to appear in the air above them. Jace saw Lysa's childhood. running through gardens, learning to fight with her mother, crying as her home burned. Lissa saw Jace's life, his sister sick in a medical pod, him working jobs, bleeding for credits, sleeping in cold cargo holds alone. They saw each other's pain, each other's dreams, each other's hearts. The fire rose higher. Then a final voice spoke from the ceiling above. Do you accept the bond? By blood? By soul? By fate? Jace looked at Lissa. Her hand was still in the flame. She nodded, eyes full of light. I do, he said. She whispered. So do I. The temple exploded in light. The flames swirled around them, wrapping them in golden ribbons of heat and energy. Their bodies glowed. The sword beside them lifted into the air, spinning above the pool. Then, like a silent promise, the fire sank into their skin. When the light faded, they were still standing, unburned, unbroken, bound. They walked out of the temple, hand in hand. Outside, the Varine warriors were waiting. But this time they bowed. One spoke. The pact is sealed. You are now more than bondmates. You are the future. Lissa turned to Jace. They will follow us now, or fear us. Jace raised an eyebrow. So we're leaders? She smiled. Not yet, but soon. He looked at the sword now glowing a deep gold. Then we better figure out how to lead. That night, under a cold sky filled with stars, Lissa and Jace sat near a quiet fire. She rested her head on his shoulder. I never thought this bond would mean anything, she said softly. He looked down at her. And now? She smiled. Now, I'm glad you picked up that sword, Jace chuckled. Yeah, me too, husband. She hit his shoulder playfully. They laughed, but far in the distance, a dark ship entered orbit, and something was watching them. The ceremony of the burning sky. The sky was glowing red. Not because of the sun, but because of the ship. A massive war vessel hovered above the old desert city of Tarnus, casting a dark shadow over the land. Its engines rumbled like thunder. People ran through the streets, panicked. Inside the old stone halls of the city, Jace and Lissa stood at the center of a wide circle, surrounded by members of the scattered Varine clans. Warriors, elders, survivors. All of them watched silently. A tall elder stepped forward. His face was marked with glowing tattoos and his voice was deep with age. You passed the trial of flame. You bonded by choice, he said. His eyes locked on Jace. Now, you must face the ceremony of the burning sky. If you succeed, the clans will unite behind you. If not, Lissa stepped forward. He will succeed. The elder looked at her. We shall see. Outside the city, flames lit the sky. The enemy ship had landed, and from it stepped Varric Malone, a former general of the Varine who had betrayed the clans and sided with outsiders. His armor was black and gold, his eyes burned with hate, and behind him stood an army of mercenaries, cyber-enhanced beasts and warbots. We found them, he said. The girl, and the human who stole her. He raised his hand. Burn the city. Bring me the blade. Back inside, Jace was handed the sword once again. But this time it felt heavier, not because of its weight, but because of what it meant now. This wasn't just about a bond, this was about a people who had lost their home, their power, and now looked to him. I'm not a king, he said quietly to Lissa. She smiled. You're something better. What's that? Someone who never wanted power, but still stands to protect others. Jace gave a small nod. Then let's give them something to follow. The elder raised his staff and struck the stone ground 3 times. Boom, boom, boom. The fire pit in the center lit up instantly, flames shooting into the sky. The burning sky calls for a public oath, he declared. Jace stepped into the circle of fire. All went silent. He raised the sword high. I'm not one of you by blood. I'm not Varine by name, he said, his voice steady. But I held the blade. I protected one of yours, and I chose her not by duty, but by heart. He looked around at the crowd. I don't ask you to kneel, I ask you to stand. Together. For her, for your people, for a future where we aren't hunted anymore. Silence. Then, someone clapped. A second person raised their fist. And then the entire courtyard echoed with voices. Vareen rises, Vareen lives, Vareen fights. The fire turned gold. The blade in Jace's hand glowed with new energy. The ceremony was complete. He was now, by Vareen law, their bonded protector. Their war leader. But there was no time to celebrate. A guard ran into the circle. They've broken the gates. Varrick's forces are inside the city. Lysa turned, fire in her eyes. Then we meet them not as prey. Jace stepped beside her. But as a storm. The battle exploded through the streets of Tarnus. Varrick's mercenaries spread like fire. But the Vareen fought with a new spirit. The people who had once been scattered now moved like a single body, guided by Jace and Lysa. Jace led the charge down the main road, cutting through a cyber beast with the sword. It screamed and fell. Lysa moved with grace and fury, her twin daggers dancing like light. They fought side by side, like they had done this for years. Then, Varrick appeared. The traitor general stood in the center of the square, eyes glowing red, a massive plasma axe in his hands. Human, he growled. That blade was mine, you are nothing. Jace stepped forward, lifting the sword. I may be nothing, he said, but I'm standing between you and everything you want. With a roar, Varrick charged. The battle between them shook the ground. Blow after blow, sparks flew. The sword clashed with the axe. Every hit tested Jace's strength. He stumbled once, twice, but each time Lysa called out to him, Stand, Jace! Stand. And he did. In one final move, Jace dodged a heavy strike, spun around and drove the blade straight into Varrick's chest. The traitor gasped, then fell. Silence fell over the battlefield. Then came the chant again. Vareen rises. Lysa ran to Jace. He was bleeding, tired, but alive. She held his face in her hands. You did it. He smiled weakly. We did it. Then he fainted in her arms. That night the sky over Tarnus was filled with celebration fires. The stars burned, brighter than ever. But in the darkness beyond the stars, another eye opened. Watching. Waiting. The new clan rises. 3 suns rose over the city of Tarnus. Their golden light fell across broken buildings, blood-stained stone, and healing warriors. Smoke still rose from burned towers, but the sound of battle was gone. What remained was silence. Victory. In the highest tower, Jace stood at the edge of the balcony. His body was wrapped in fresh bandages. The sword of the Vareen rested against the railing beside him. His gaze moved across the city. People were rebuilding, soldiers were laughing. Children were playing again. But deep inside, Jace knew. This was only a beginning. Lysa entered quietly behind him. She placed a soft hand on his back. You're up early. Couldn't sleep, he said. Too much in my head. She stood beside him. Today is important. You'll be naming the new clan. He looked at her. You think I'm ready to lead these people? She smiled. You already are. You fought for them. You bled for them. And more than anything, they believe in you. He looked down at the sword. Then let's give them something worth believing in. By midday, the city center was full. Every surviving Vareen, every supporter, every former rival now stood in the old gathering circle, where once kings and queens were crowned. The Elder of Fire raised his voice. Let the protector of the blade, the bonded warrior, and the chosen mate of the last royal step forward. Jace walked into the center. He did not wear a crown. He wore scars, and the people loved him for it. Lysa stepped beside him, tall and proud. The elder bowed his head. Do you accept the responsibility to lead, not by blood, but by bond and battle? Do, Jace said. Then speak your clan's name. Jace looked at Lysa, then at the people. He raised the sword high. I name this clan Vareen Kale, a name of 2 paths, 2 people. One future. A roar rose from the crowd. Vareen Kale, Vareen Kale. As the celebration began, Lysa leaned close to him. You used part of your name. He nodded. I wanted them to know this clan is no longer just about the past. It's about what we build together. She smiled. You're not just a human anymore, Jace. You're something more. But in the shadows of the stars, others were watching. In a cold, dark command chamber aboard a distant fleet, 3 alien warlords stood before a large galactic map. One of them, a scaled creature with deep red eyes, pointed to a blinking mark. Tarnus. The Vareen survivors have created a new clan, led by a human. Another, a cybernetic female, scoffed. A human leading an alien royal bloodline. That is chaos. The third, tall and draped in dark armor, said nothing. Then he stepped forward and tapped the map. Chaos brings opportunity. Let the galaxy fear the Vareen Kale, and let us prepare to crush them before they rise too far. The screen zoomed in on Jace's face. Send a message. Meanwhile, in Tarnus, the sky split open. A single black drone descended from above and crashed near the city gates. Jace and Lysa ran to the site. The device glowed, then opened, projecting a message in the air. A hologram, the dark armored warlord. He stared straight into Jace's eyes. To the human who dares lead where aliens once ruled. Your rise ends now. You carry a sword, but you stand alone. The Empire of Silence is coming. Then the message ended. The drone exploded. Everyone turned to Jace. Waiting. Looking. He stepped forward. He lifted the sword high. We are not afraid. We are not alone. We are Vareen Kale. The people roared. But in Jace's heart, he knew. The true war was just beginning. Husband of the Vareen. The stars were no longer silent. Above the planet, dark warships of the Empire of Silence moved into position, black as night, blocking light from the sun. Their weapons were ready. Their purpose was simple. Destroy the Vareen Kale in the War Hall of Tarnus. The leaders of the new clan gathered. Maps glowed on the table. Drones buzzed overhead. Signals blinked, urgent and red. Jace stood in the center, his hand resting on the sacred sword. His face was calm, but his heart raced. They outnumber us 10-1, a young captain said. We can't win. Lysa slammed her fist on the table. Then we don't fight to win. We fight to survive. Jace shook his head. No, we fight for more than that. We fight to become. Everyone turned toward him. He looked around the room. Long ago, the Vareen ruled with strength. Then they lost their way. I'm not a king, and I never wanted to lead. But we started something. Something that scares them. He raised the sword high. Hope. As the enemy fleet began its descent, the people of Tarnus took position. Old walls were rebuilt, weapons recharged, fighters stood on rooftops. Jace wore his battle armor, light, strong, and marked with the Vareen Kale sigil. At his side was Lysa, her eyes full of fire. They stood together on the highest wall facing the black sky. I don't care what happens today, she said. I just want you to know, I'm glad the sword chose you. He smiled. I didn't choose the sword. I chose you. She kissed him. And then the sky burned. Enemy ships rained down fire. Explosions shook the city. But the Vareen Kale stood their ground. Jace led the charge, sword glowing gold as he deflected blasts and cut through invaders. Lysa moved beside him like wind, silent, fast, deadly. The people followed their leaders with everything they had. Every street became a battleground, every corner a last stand. Then, the worst came. A massive black mech dropped from the sky. Taller than any building, its chest opened, revealing the warlord of silence. He hovered to the ground, landing with a thunderous crash. All fighting stopped. He stepped forward, voice cold as ice. You are the human who calls himself husband of the Varine. Jace stood firm. I didn't take that name. I earned it. The warlord's weapon lit up. Let us see if you've earned your life. They fought. The sword clashed with the warlord's burning staff. Sparks flew. The ground cracked beneath their feet. Every move was life or death. Jace was strong, but the warlord was stronger. Blow after blow drove Jace to the ground. His armor cracked. Blood dripped from his mouth. Lisa screamed. No! She ran to help, but was blocked by enemy soldiers. Jace struggled to rise. The warlord raised his staff. You were never meant to lead. You are nothing. Jace looked up. His hand tightened around the sword. No, he said softly. I'm her husband. And with the last of his strength, he drove the blade upward, right through the warlord's chest. The light exploded. The warlord howled and vanished into smoke. The battlefield froze. Then one by one the enemy ships powered down. The Empire forces retreated. The people stared in disbelief. They had won. Later that night, under the stars, the city glowed with firelight and joy. The battle was over, but something greater had begun. In the sacred garden, Jace stood in a ceremonial robe. His wounds were healed, but the marks of war would stay forever. Lissa wore traditional Varine colors, silver, red, and black. Her eyes sparkled. The Elder of Fire raised his hands. By fire and bond, by sword and soul, we honor them not just as warriors, not just as leaders, but as mates joined by fate. He looked at Jace. You are now forever known as husband of the Varine, not by law but by legacy. Lissa placed her hand in Jace's. He smiled. So, what now? She smiled back. We lead, we love, we live. As the people cheered and the stars shined above, a new future was born. Not of war, but of unity. And it all began the moment he picked up the sword.